This is really the Fighter and the Kid.
Come on, baby. Well, we have Ron Perlman.
This is a big one for me.
Yeah, Hellboy and
Hellboy, Sons of Anarchy.
It is Sons of Anarchy.
Trying to play it cool here.
But here's the thing: as an actor,
big fan.
I've been doing this for 30 years. As an actor, it's very important to let me speak on Ron over here because.
Wait, can I add one more thing?
Yes.
You know he's the voice of the UFC.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
Educate yourself.
I did not know that. No, the man's
voice of the UFC, dude.
Look, the man's
that was my ace up my sleeve. I
love that.
I was going to play that card down the road a piece.
The man has had as storied a career as it gets. There's no actor in the planet. When you're starting out, if you said, "Do you want a career like Ron Perlman?" Everybody goes, "I'll take that. I'll take it right away." Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But here's what's interesting. Here's what people don't talk about. He does it, and has always done it, without really moving. He barely even moves his mouth. Like the guy just kind of sits there and says a couple things. I just said, and you don't really hear the New York that much, but he doesn't move his mouth. He doesn't fucking move his mouth.
It's called talent.
And you know what? Here's the thing about being a great actor. I believe everything he says all the time. It's kind of that Gene Hackman thing. He's never done anything I've seen, and I've seen probably everything you've done.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know. We've all done some terrible stuff, but for the most part, you've done some great stuff. I've never seen you have a moment that I didn't believe you. And to be that still and be able to do that for that long is so much harder than people realize.
But
so much harder.
But also, Ron, didn't I hear at one point you were going to quit or get out of the game? You were going on auditions, weren't getting a lot of things. Then you got, was it Beauty and the Beast? And you won awards for that, but you were thinking about getting out?
Well, the business thought I was out on a couple of occasions.
Yeah.
I had to keep checking my phone to see if I hadn't paid the bill because it didn't ring for like 3 years. And it was funny because it was right after, like in 1987, Beauty and the Beast hit the airwaves and ran for 2.5 seasons. And then they canceled it at the beginning of the new guy that took over CBS, they swore him in, and he took the oath of office, to like uphold the CBS Constitution.
Yeah.
And his first official act was Beauty and the Beast canceled.
Out.
Was that Les Movement?
No, Les came later. This was Jeff somebody or another. He ended up in.
Can't have that. I didn't create it, so get it out of here.
He ended up launching this religious network, that did all these Christian shows and shit. Which good luck with that. I mean, he never called me because I was busy, saying my bruchas.
I was busy being Jewish.
Yeah. But Jeff something, I'll remember his fucking name.
No grudges held.
Jeff, no, we're good, bro. We're good. I better not run into you. Yeah. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so. What was his question?
No,
your
phone was ringing.
Oh yeah, you were. There was only one moment from the time I started acting in high school to today. There was only one moment where I was gonna give it up, and it was like long time ago. It was in the 70s probably. And it only lasted for a day and a half.
That's good.
Because I decided on a Tuesday, I'm not getting any signals that I should keep doing this. There's not one person, and I'm not even sure I'm giving myself signals, but definitely nobody else is. And this is too hard a thing to do without a little signal from the universe, like, okay, keep banging your head against the wall, because eventually, there were no signals. So that was a Tuesday. My buddy got tickets to a play, a revival of a Tennessee Williams play called Sweet Bird of Youth.
Great play.
With Christopher Walken and Irene Worth. Irene Worth was an incredible English character actress. And the curtain comes up, and I watch Irene Worth give this tour de force performance. She acts rings around Christopher Walken. It was all he could fucking do to keep up. He was great, but she was like a dynamo. And we got in the car after the play, me and my buddy Burton. We started driving home. We'd gotten about 45 minutes into the trip, and he says, "Why are you so fucking quiet?" I said, there's nothing I can say after that performance. I said that she just razzled and dazzled my ass like up and down. And then the first thing I actually said was, you know what? What she just did to me, whatever I got to do, whatever fire I got to walk through to maybe do that to somebody else, it's worth it. And I've never, ever had a moment.
That happened to me with Raging Bull. When I saw De Niro, whatever happened to me, I got, and when you see great theater in New York, though, when you see great actors, like I watched Death of a Salesman with Brian Dennehy and Victoria Swanson. Remember her?
Yeah.
Bro, I was like, I literally was like, well, first of all, what am I doing? Because that's where the bar is. And it just changes you. It changes your DNA. And all you want to do is maybe participate in that magic for a couple of seconds. So you can, and what happens to an audience, I think, when you watch something like that, is you forget you're human for a while. And what I mean by that is you forget you have to go to the bathroom, have sex, eat, sleep. You are an arrested high relief. You are suddenly transported to something which is something probably close to what I would consider God, where you kind of go, that's the highest truth I can imagine. I guess you're dealing with beauty. You're dealing with something that kind of transports you into what is actually truly important, and everything else seems trivial. Did you see Jerusalem? Did you see Mark Rylance in Jerusalem?
I did not. One of my besties, though, Kim Coach, just did a revival of that. And so he was telling me about what a tour de force that is.
That's what Spielberg saw and said, I got to put him in my... He is, again, you see these athletes.
Who did Spielberg see?
Mark Rylance.
Oh, yes.
You see these athletes, when you see these actors on stage who are doing 8 shows a week for 2.5 hours sometimes, and hitting their marks every time, and they're physically athletic.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and they're not. It's not like they're millionaires doing it every night. Like on Broadway, they're not getting paid crazy money.
Not
either.
that guy. Never. He was never making money. I don't think he's making money now.
Oh, there it is. That's really cool how you brought that up, man.
He's great.
That's the
Any
that
actor.
guy. I was in a movie with him about 1.5 years ago called "Don't Look Up," which Adam McKay wrote and directed, and it was the greatest cast of actors I've ever participated with. It was Leo and Jennifer Lawrence and Meryl Streep, and not a lot of people you've heard of. There it is. There's Don't Look Up.
Wow.
And Mark Rylance acted everybody else off the motherfucking screen.
Really?
I mean, I just of all, I'm a fan of all these people. I mean, I'm just such a movie geek still to this point. But watching Mark Rylance do what he did in that movie, I went, I would never be able to have the imagination to come up with a character like that and then execute it. So, because it's 2 phases always. It's first, the imagination gets fired up, and you start imagining a piece of humanity that you had to glom off some words on a page, and then you get that humanity, and I actually have identified 2 periods in my acting career. The first one was I was able to identify the humanity, but my execution of it it stopped at the identification stage. I didn't get into the flow stage of it all. And I realized it. I kept watching my work, and I kept going, that's very technically correct, but you're not flowing. You're not in the moment. And so it became an obsession for me to just forget about the imagination part of it, forget about the concept part of it. Just when the camera's rolling, have the balls to just flow and see what comes out. And it's been so the one thing informs the other. So, but Mark Rylance plays this guy who's very much like Steve Jobs, I guess, and you got to just go back and watch the performance. Watch him in anything. He's riveting.
And you were sitting in the car, quiet. I love that story because you kind of went, I gotta do this. I gotta figure out how to do to somebody what that woman did to me.
Or I gotta not look back. I gotta never ever doubt that this is worth whatever I gotta go through to do it. Because the effect she had on me, and I remember when I was a kid, when I fell in love with movies, I was like, my dad was a laborer, lower middle class Jewish guy from New York, carried a 35-pound toolbox, went house to house fixing people's televisions for $3 a house call when everybody else was charging $15. My dad was kind of, he was like a
Hardcore.
kind of a role model. But his life was not,
Not easy.
fettered with luxury.
Yeah.
But what he did do was he surrounded himself with music and movies and New York Yankees. Those are his three passions. And I would watch him, come home from work. We'd have dinner, and around 7:30, this thing called $1 Million Movie would come on Channel 9 in New York, WR in New York. And I would watch him watch a Tyrone Power performance. And I'd look in his face, and there'd be tears in his eyes. And he was infused with, he was transported to where I don't know. But then I kept going from his face to the screen, to his face to the screen, watching him watch Spencer Tracy and Errol Flynn and John Wayne, and all those great John Ford movies and everything like that. And my dad, without having any feel for, appreciation of cinema, like one does when one commits to it as a profession, he was fucking hook, line, and sinker, man, transported into a better place. And the next fucking morning, he'd get up and he'd carry that 35-pound thing again. He'd do what he had to do to put food on the table. But at night, it was Sinatra or the Yankees when the season was happening, or $1 Million Movie. And that's where I got my, not only did I get a love for what movies could do to an average working stiff, but also, I grew up on the mean streets in New York City, right? And I was a Jewish guy in an Irish, Puerto Rican, Italian, black neighborhood.
Yeah, no fights there.
They were
nice to you. Huh?
I mean, just walking to school.
It wasn't anything in particular. It was all of the above, right? So
you're the Jew.
They didn't discriminate.
You got to pretend you're Italian. A lot of Jewish kids pretended they were Italian. They're like,
I did.
Of course, I did. Of course.
I'll get to that. But I basically, that's where I learned how to be funny, because if somebody said, "I'm gonna fucking kick your ass up," I would tell them a joke, and that would be how I would disarm them.
Yeah.
But where was I going with this? So
you talking about growing up in the mean streets of New York?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's my point. You come to terms when you grow up in a high pressured environment like New York City, and you're a young kid and you're fighting for your life, and you're trying to figure out, like, in the food chain,
right,
where the fuck do I fit? I'm a fat Jewish kid, right, and I'm surrounded by
be an
guys
actor
who just wanted to kill me. And so where do I fit, and how do I survive this? You would think that was where you would learn how to become a man. Where I learned how to become a man was watching John Wayne's walk, Errol Flynn's swagger, Tyrone Power's charm, Jimmy Cagney's fucking manhood, Humphrey Bogart's weirdness in terms of his man. I learned everything I needed to know about the kind of man that I wanted to grow up to be from movies.
Yeah.
Really.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that because
that's the value. That's the value of great story, though.
Because you watch these guys who are all flawed in these pictures, but who had a challenge where they had to rise to herohood. And there were huge amounts of obstacles that got in their way, but one way or another, you were watching them push shit aside for the greater good. That's what a hero is in a movie, right?
Do you remember Angels with Dirty Faces?
Oh, my God.
Right? And Jimmy Cagney, who was famous for saying acting's easy. All you got to do is hit your mark, look the other actor in the eye, and tell the truth, right? Boom. And the Angels with Dirty Faces, the reason he just went, oh, my God. And you talk about a life lesson and talk about giving up what you want for what you need and coming up with new equilibrium as a human being. He plays this, he plays this criminal, and he has a life of crime. And his best friend was a priest. And the reason he got caught and his friend didn't was because he couldn't run as fast. So his friend who ran fast ran away from the law. He became a priest. Jimmy Cagney gets caught because he couldn't run as fast. He gets put in juvenile detention, caught up in the system, becomes a criminal, and a hero among the kids in the neighborhood. He's like gangster.
Yeah, he's a tough
and
guy.
he kills somebody, And the priest comes to him and says, you're going to the chair. You're going to the electric chair. And Jimmy Cagney's going, bring me to the chair. I'll go to the chair like a man. I don't need a priest. Get out of here. I'm going to go like a man and I'm going to show him who I am. And the priest says, I don't want you to do that. These kids look up to you.
I want you to do me one last favor. And I know you're going to hate this, but I want you to do me one last favor. Go ahead.
That's what he says. I want you to do one last favor. I know you're going to hate it. He says, what is it? And he goes, I want you to go to the chair like a coward.
Oh, wow.
I want you to go kicking and screaming and crying because I don't want these kids to look up to you.
Yes.
And he goes, it's all I got. All I got is my manhood. You're taking that away from me the last minute. Get out of here. I'm not doing it. That's all I got. And he kind of looks at him and he goes like this. He goes, and the priest leaves the cell. And Jimmy Cagney's like, basically, son of a bitch. I'm not doing that shit. And then they take him. And the way they shoot it is you see just his shadows, his shadow and the guard shadow on the wall as they're taking him. And you think he's just going to be like, I got it, like that. And then you see him go, please don't take me, please, I'm afraid, don't. And they grab, and then you see the neighborhood kids, what's his name, goes to the chair, Yella. In other words, he goes like a coward. That's cool. And they're all disappointed. And the priest says, come on, boys, let's go to church and say a prayer for a kid who couldn't run as fast. That movie, that's an example of we go to the theater to laugh and cry.
Here's my question,
never feel more alive.
Here's my question is you had those heroes that molded your life. You had yours.
There it is right there.
And I had mine as a kid. The reels showed you how to be a man and carry yourself and have morals, stuff like that. You look at the stars today. I have two young boys. Who do they have to look up to in your business?
Good question, buddy.
Who do they have? Taking a little break with one of my faves, Hellboy, Ron Perlman, because the NFL is here, college football is here. My CU Buffs play Oregon. They're 18-point dogs. But we are back with another week of NFL football. DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on the NFL action with great offers every single game day. Thursday night football, Saturday college, Sunday NFL, Monday night football. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Throw down 5 on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away an instant winner. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every day this September. Football's more fun when you're in on the action. So download the app now. Sign up with the code FIGHTER. New customers can bet just $5 buckaroos to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL with the code FIGHTER. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLING or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort KS, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario, ccdkng.com.co/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.
DraftKings, promo code FIGHTER. Go Buffs.
Listen, sometimes you get in accidents. Sometimes you're out of work.
Happens.
Sometimes you need money. And then sometimes you're like, I don't want to sue the person. But guess what? A lot of times you're not suing the person. Most of the time you're suing the insurance company.
Yeah, dude. If
Secondly,
you're ever injured, Brian, you can check out Morgan and Morgan.
Tell me more about Morgan and Morgan. Dude, is that the America's largest injury law firm?
Yeah, dude. Over 100 offices nationwide, more than 800 lawyers with over $15 billion
with a B
recovered for over 300,000 clients. Morgan has a proven track record. All right, Morgan has been fighting for the people for over 35 freaking years.
Yeah, but is it hard to submit an injury claim?
It's too easy. It's too easy.
Can you do it from your phone?
Yeah,
the whole thing?
Don't be scared.
Just some clicks?
Yep. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan. Their fee is free unless you win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/fighter or dial pound LAW. That's pound 529. From your cell. That's forthepeople.com/fighter or pound LAW pound 529 from your cell.
This is a paid advertisement. Good question, buddy. Great.
Who do they have? That's what's
Ron Perlman.
Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
Huh.
Poor bastards.
I thought you were serious.
They're all going to
I had so much respect for you. I didn't want to fire back. But I was like, oh, wait, yeah.
Yeah, they're all going to grow up to be Edward Scissorhands. Like fucking freaks, like goth freaks and shit. Guys who wear lipstick, and that's
What do you do? It's
No, I feel bad.
Me too.
I feel bad. Like, I feel bad. I don't really want to. If I elaborate too hard,
You'll get canceled.
I'm going to throw a lot of people under a lot of fucking buses, and I don't think I really want to do that because I love actors and I love acting so much, and it's not so much the human condition that has changed, and this is my big thing across the board. What has changed in our society are the things that the people in charge are having us worship. So what has changed
100%.
False
is the
idols.
marketplace. So like I have two kids who write it and execute music, and my daughter was 5 years too late, and my son was 10 years too late, because if they had come along prior to that, they would have played in some club, some record executive would have seen them, spent $1 million on creating an album and doing a publicity campaign and putting them out into the world, setting up a tour, and boom, they'd be living in Bel Air in a fucking mansion because their music was great. Now, do you think there's any less of those people around? Do you think that there's no Stevie Wonder being born every day? But he can't get to the marketplace because fucking, Napster came along and devalued everybody's fucking contribution.
Yep.
So nobody has a shot to live in that beautiful old model. It's not that the talent's changed. I
There's
believe
probably
the
more
talent is there
Yeah, there
no
might be
matter
more.
what.
Yeah.
What has changed is the marketplace, is the way the talent gets to emerge.
And it seems to be that a song or anything like that is consumed like it's a nugget to consume. It's a dopamine hit. Remember when we were growing up, when Led Zeppelin or Aerosmith or whoever it was came out with an album, you saw the album. There was art to the album. You listened to every song. There was an A side and a B side, and it was a body of work that you took into context. It was actually even thematic, the way they would arrange the songs, because they knew we were gonna. And there was a physical aspect to it. You had to. I remember my dad taking care of the keep the dust cover on the turntable.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a delicacy, and it meant something.
It was a big thing to go buy
dude.
the album, but also the reason they did that is they made their money based off those album sales. Now, music artists like Drake and those guys that are the streaming, they don't make much off streaming.
And
they
live.
make their money off live
Yes,
touring and
yes,
merch.
yes,
So that there's no value in putting that great artistic effort into sweet album cover or a hard album, because it's out. They stream it, and then the kids move on.
There was a kind of a mysticism when a new album would come out, and you'd have to wait sometimes 6 months or a year for one of your favorite artists to put something out. And like you say, you'd be the first one online to get the album. You'd take it home. You'd lift up the cover of of this beautiful piece of phonograph, to whatever it was that you were listening to, that you spent your whole life saving up for, to get the greatest fucking sound. You had the woofers and the tweeters, and and you'd play this thing. You'd smoke a couple of bones, and you'd play this fucking thing, and your mind would be blown, and you'd play it over and over and over again, and that thing would take a place in your life and also in society, where it became this aspirational vehicle that everybody just said, "Oh shit, man, I'm gonna work my ass off to make something happen that sounds like that."
It was
so
it
it
was
created
collective.
more generations of people who were wanting to do the same thing, but it was because there was a kind of a mystical kind of preciousness
Yes.
to the process. And they weren't just streaming 85 million shows a night.
Correct.
And none of them had any different value than the other 83,000, That's what's happened. Everything's become the preciousness of each thing having an individual value has been removed because they're just throwing shit out.
Just throwing mud at a wall.
They're throwing shit out.
Is that happening with movies, you think?
Totally.
It is, huh?
Totally. I did the movie I just referred to, I did 2 movies that played on Netflix over the last 2 years. One of them was Don't Look Up, and the other one was Pinocchio.
Big movies.
And both of them got multi-nominations, you know, they both played on Netflix. They both were great for a week.
Trending for 1 week.
Mention their names to anybody. There you
Dude,
go.
it's so true.
What movie was that?
I know.
They're massive for those weeks, Matt. Number one on
Massive.
Netflix.
Yeah, but
and
that's
then a
a
week
week.
goes by, there's a new crop.
Whereas when we still had, you know, have you walked into like the Loewy's Paradise in New York or Radio City Music Hall? Those were cathedrals that were built for people to go watch movies in. That's how much grandeur
It's true.
and majesty our culture had when it was not all just boiled down into like how many fucking, you know, stock options we can get.
Because they want subscribers. So they're getting as much content as possible and just put it all out. Whether it's good or bad, they don't care.
And
Hopefully
it
they get
all
more
sits
subscribers.
next to each other.
It all sits next to each other, but
So,
also it's happening
you know,
in our
we all feel
in
this
our,
way.
in our field in stand up. So Shane Gill's number one special, great special, number one special. You have a week now. It's not like when Eddie Murphy dropped a special, George Carlin, where you're talking about it for the next 2-3 years. We're even talking about Eddie's now.
Talking
and
about
George
now.
Carlin.
Yeah.
Now, think about it. Some of these great specials, you have a week, man.
A week.
And then, so to my thing, why do it?
Well,
I guess if you get the paycheck
it
from Netflix.
devalues. We all feel devalued. We all feel. I think we all of us feel like there may be no place for this biology, for this. You know, when you writing, I was up at 3:30 last night because I watched Michelle Wolf. I want you to watch her episode 2 and 3 of her special. Phenomenal.
Yeah,
So
she's
smart.
great.
She's so well crafted at jokes. But I got
Great
inspired
writer.
and I woke up and I wrote from 3 to 5:30. And you know as well as I do, writing a good 1 hour of comedy. I'm on tour right now. You know, it's so difficult because you have to. It takes me 2 years before I shoot my special. And I got to tour and I got to carve it. And then I come back and I go, that was bullshit, or I add something to it. But it takes so much of my thought. And like, I always wonder, like, is it worth it? Because they're going to watch it as a clip on Instagram, and that's good for that. And then on to my next dopamine hit. And it doesn't even, nobody even has the time to sit through an hour. Shoot an hour of comedy? Are you out of your mind? Who's going to sit through that? Nobody has the attention span anymore.
No, even
and also,
even
like,
with Bill
we still
Burr,
feel valued, man.
Even with Bill Burr, like you, when I spoke to Netflix, like I don't care whose special it is. If people stop watching, it doesn't matter. Kevin Hart, at the 20, if you're a Kevin Hart level, Bill Burr level, they stop watching at the 28-minute mark. 28 minutes. And that, you know, you got to figure that's the average. So
That's
some
a
people are
long
watching,
time.
but the general 28 minutes,
Yeah.
long time. But for an hour special, so it's like,
Yeah.
so then why are we still putting out 60? If we
Yeah.
know they're not even getting to
That's
that.
the old model.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because it used to pay dividends.
Because it's worth it. Because we love it. Because
Yeah.
we don't think like you know the only reason why they know it's like 28 minutes everybody stops is because they're fucking lawyers.
Yep.
They're guys
numbers.
who came from fucking hedge funds.
Yeah. They're not
So
creatives.
because they have no education and no taste,
We're numbers.
and no ability to know what's good or bad, all they have is algorithms.
That's it.
So you get these guys who like, oh yeah, well, we'll figure out like what the public wants by executing our algorithm.
Yep.
And that's how we know, oh, after 28 minutes, you know, I'm sorry, you're valueless.
Yeah.
It's so true.
And so I'm only going to pay you for 28 minutes.
Yep.
Because here I have it right in my, I have the
You're a number.
documentation
You're a number.
right in my hand.
Yeah.
You're not worth anything after 28 minutes.
Yeah.
So you know that hour I was going to pay you for? I'm only going to pay you for
Cut in
half.
half. Yeah.
Dude, you're so
Because-
right about that. You are.
That's the
we're
way they
all-
think.
We're all reduced to a number. Every one of us is reduced. Seriously, like how many butts you put in the seat, how many clicks you get. I get the capitalist market system. I get it, and I believe in that. But
But it's not capitalism.
It's not, is it?
Capitalism or any ism, any ideology is only as good as the people who are executing it. And if the people who are executing are Philistines who have absolutely no relationship to the beauty of culture, to the things that you and I are talking
So
about.
how do we get it right? How do we switch it?
You talk about it.
Because now AI's
we tear it down, bro.
now that AI is coming in.
We tear it down
Yeah.
and we rebuild it.
The
And
Ostrom-
we rebuild it in the image of the 99%. Because the people who we're talking about, who are making all these
The
fucking
1%ers?
decisions and using all the algorithm, that's the 1%.
Yep.
And they got us bullshitted.
less than 1%.
They got us bullshitted. They control everything.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, motherfuckers? Maybe you don't control everything.
Yeah.
Maybe it's us.
They
that
don't have the power,
Maybe
yeah.
you stop. Maybe we gaslight you.
Yeah.
For a change.
Shit, I'll storm Netflix with you right now. You got me fired up, dude.
How much do you like Ron Perlman?
I've
You know
loved
what I mean?
him even
Like,
before
I'm
this.
enjoying this conversation. So, like, what you're doing, Ron, is you're talking about the things that matter and that are important, and I just find myself wanting to be nowhere else. And that's interesting to me that I have that emotional reaction, because you're touching on things that we oftentimes forget because I'm so busy making a living and I'm so busy hustling. And
You get caught up in the business of the algorithm,
and it never dawned on me.
But it's tough too,
But it
because
does.
you came from Kansas City, or let's say you post a clip, you're looking at the numbers because we're all conditioned.
But
We're
God
conditioned.
bless you, because you're not just making a living; you're actually expressing yourself,
Yes.
and the living will follow from that.
Yes.
And we all get caught up in the fact that the more wealth we're able to accrue, the more independent we get. So wealth has a really important
Yeah, I'm not
place
complaining. We've done well.
in
So
the
I'm
whole
not,
thing.
I'm very lucky.
But it's important because what you want, you don't want to have to depend on anybody. You want to have autonomy. You want to
Yes.
have independence, and you want to have a certain sort of a fuck you kind of a distance from
Yes.
from being completely co-opted by the assholes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So being successful is important, but really, what you are protecting. The three of us who are sitting here, I don't know about these motherfuckers.
No, they're algorithm guys. Those are algorithm guys.
Ron doesn't trust those
I don't like the
algorithms.
algorithm.
I don't trust them either.
But the three of us, we're superior because we all want to be successful. We all want to, we all care about reaching the most people. Why? Because we are creative people who want to keep expressing ourselves and making comments about the lives we're living in, which is what culture is.
Yeah.
And I will fight that. I will die on that hill. And in fact, this strike, to make an awkward segue.
I love it. Tell
No,
me
it's a good
about it.
segue. At least I didn't have to do it.
Can you explain for the people what this strike is really about and what we're fighting for? Writers and actors, artists.
I think what happened to me with the onset of the strike was strangely gradual. Strangely gradual. Not very gradual, because after the first week, I was where I am right now. But it took me a week to realize, and it took me this strike to realize how broken the relationship between the impresarios who make our culture, possible, and those of us who create how vast the disconnect has become. And
Can I just stop you? It's a really important point you made. I always say that the cornerstone of a culture, any culture, is its artistic expression. When you think about India, you think about the Taj Mahal. That was built by Raj he wanted to impress a lady. When you think about England, you think about Shakespeare. When you think about America, you think about rock and roll. You think about jazz. You think about those things that we export. That's what people want to be closest to. That's what makes people feel alive. And anybody who doesn't understand how important art is to our literal identity, it is what we stay alive for. It's what we live for, So sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to highlight that because I think it's really important. It's kind of what you're talking about.
there's this famous story, and I'm probably not going to get it exactly right because I only anecdotally heard it, and I didn't hear it quoted directly from Mr. Churchill. But during the London Blitz during World War II, when London was getting
Our finest hour.
the crap knocked out of them, they went to Mr. Churchill and they said, "Mr. Churchill, we're going to have to black out the city because we're a sitting duck here." He said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Well, we're going to have to close the opera houses and the theaters and we have to shut everything down." He said, "Well, then what is it we're fighting for?"
Wow.
So
Damn.
they kept it
That's
all
exactly
open.
right, bro.
And he fucking wrote it out. He said,
That's
I'm
exactly
not
right.
shutting down the lights of my city. That's the lights of my city. If I shut the lights of my city down,
They win.
the things that make life worth living, which is hearing an incredibly beautiful aria or watching Baryshnikov defy gravity or watching Tennessee Williams like make you go, holy fuck, you know, then the enemy has won.
That's right. That's right. They've taken our music away.
They've
away.
won because they're Philistines, they're savages, and they have no regard for anything. And
just numbers.
Those poor bastards, their lives are. Well, what are you even doing alive? Fuck you. Go kill yourself, man. If there's nothing in your life that's worth living for and dying for, except anger and some sort of twisted theocracy, get the fuck out of my way, bro. Get the fuck out of here. So. Sorry.
I interrupted you before I went off on my thing about that.
Yeah.
Because you were saying you were talking about the strike. So there's this disconnect between the impresarios and the
and it doesn't seem like we're moving closer to the goal line. Seems like it's getting further and further away.
Well, what
you would know better than anybody.
What has shocked my sensibilities, and I think everyone else's, because I'm hearing a lot of people now who are getting the joke about the runaway greed of the people who are on the other side of the negotiating table. They're not even on the other side of the negotiating table. They won't come to the negotiating table because they're using this opportunity as to diabolically prove to the world that they're just nothing but Charles Dickens villains.
Wow.
Because they have respect for nothing other than next quarter's profits and their stock options. And we all thought, who the fuck would dare, on the heels of a pandemic, not only allow a strike to happen, but take the position like, we're just going to fucking starve you out. Mm-hmm. They started out the conversation with, we're going to wait for people to start losing their houses.
That's what they said.
Really?
Yes, that's what they said. They said, we're going to wait until people start losing their houses and having to worry about their rent.
How evil are these freaking people?
Because they know that they can do that.
But to me,
they don't know
like,
anybody. They don't know anybody in Hollywood.
At least you know what you're dealing with. At least they show their colors.
Like, finally you said the quiet part out loud.
There you go.
Yeah, you said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for revealing who it is we're negotiating with.
You know what beast you're dealing with.
So, it took me a really short amount of time to realize, regardless of what we get when the strike is finally over with, we're still in the exact same position of dealing in a world where they're trying to devalue our worth to make their worth more worth.
You're still at the mercy. Nothing really changes. You might have some more favorable terms, but that's the machine.
It also might be, too, that they are looking at the fact that the world of art has become something you consume like candy. And it goes back to what we were talking about. They're like, listen, dude, you're replaceable. I can replace you.
But replace you with what? That's what's scary.
I don't know, an AI image.
That's what I'm saying, AI.
And by
so
the
that's
way,
devaluing him.
And they might even say this, too. People don't really care about great movies anymore.
They're so off on them.
Popcorn.
They're so off on them.
They just want popcorn stuff. We can export this to China and make our money.
They're off on AI too. If they think people are going to go to a movie theater knowing it's not Ron,
you can't replace him.
You're screwed.
You can't replace him.
They're going to learn the hard way.
You can't replace. I always say this about great movies too. The amount. First of all, there's so many moving parts. So the alchemy that has to occur, the beautiful accident that has to occur when you see a movie like The Godfather or whatever it might be, any movie that moves you. But also, like, don't get it twisted. Great acting, great directing, great writing is a craft that is as difficult as anything you can think about and requires respect and a work ethic that is as I'll put it up against anything. Great directors, great storytellers, great acting. It ain't an accident.
But again, to his point, they don't look at it like that.
Yeah. How long did it take you before you felt like you were an actor? You probably always felt like an actor, but when you felt like you were able to navigate a role with the best, you worked with the best of the best, the best of the best. So when you come to that set with Meryl Streep, and
there's
Mark
some
Rylance,
insecurities, Ron.
holy
Are you like,
shit,
oh,
Let me tell you a little quick little anecdote. So we're shooting Don't Look Up in Boston in December, January, and February of 2020 and 2021. So we're in the heart of the lockdown. And there were certain pictures that were, they had to spend a lot of money to have the COVID testing, to have the thing, and to have the lockdown to make sure that actors were staying, in their hotel rooms and everything like that. But I actually went to work on a couple of things right in the heart of the lockdown. Don't Look Up was one of them. And so most of the scenes I do in Don't Look Up, I'm all by myself. I'm in a spaceship and all, But I had one scene where the President of the United States, played by Meryl Streep, introduces me as the guy who's going to go up and fight the asteroid. And it was a night shoot. So I left my hotel. It was February. It was 27 degrees Fahrenheit. I left my hotel room at around 3:30 in the afternoon because we had like an hour and a half drive, and then we had to rehearse. And then by the time the sun went down, we were going to start shooting. And I had stolen a washcloth from the bathroom of my hotel room. And I get in. It's 27 degrees. I get in the van, the Teamster picks me up, and I'm only in a T-shirt. I got a shirt, and I got my winter coat alongside me, and I'm wiping my face, and the guy keeps looking in the rearview mirror, like going, oh, Jesus Christ, what the fuck's up with Perlman? It's like, and he says to me, you want me to turn the heat down? I said, no, that's okay. And he's looking at me in the rearview mirror, and I'm convinced he thinks I got COVID because I am.
You were nervous.
I am sweating bullets. And finally, he says to me, Ron, how you doing back there? I said, I'm good. He goes, no, are you all right? You seem like you're sweating and you're all like, are you okay? I go, yeah. He says, what's the problem? I said, Meryl Streep.
I mean,
I had not only not ever met her, but I never thought that I was going to have to go toe to toe in a scene with her. And
Insane.
she's like, she occupies this.
she might be the greatest actor, period, in some ways. You can make
Whoever
the argument.
lived.
She's in that
She's up there,
conversation.
yeah.
She's the GOAT.
Yeah,
Am I
she's
right?
go. Yeah.
And so he goes, what do you mean? I go, never mind. You'd never understand. But
Yeah, he's not gonna get. He's like, all right.
But I had shit rolling down my leg at the thought that I was going to have to. Now, that was, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
I was 71 years old, bro. And I'm still, so you're asking me, like, when did I realize that I was as good as any of them? I still haven't, and I never will.
Look at that cast right there. Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know how recently, not when you shot Hellboy, which is one of my favorite movies, but now Martin Scorsese said it. He goes, I don't view that as art. The comic book stuff, it's just not my cup of tea. More power to them, but it's not what I don't consider that real, art as far as what I do. I wouldn't make those pictures. And I thought about you. I'm like, well, Hellboy is such a different thing, but it is a comic book movie. Hellboy is a comic book. It's a massive comic book. Mm-hmm. When you did it, though, that wasn't the narrative. Was there any reservations not taking that role?
Oh, fuck no. Are you kidding me?
No way. That's
Massive role.
Game changer. Life changer.
So good.
Life changer.
It was, you played that character. You did your own thing with that character. Like you were playing. Yeah. That was crazy. Like barely. Again. A badass superhero. By the way, I want to know how long you were in makeup for that.
So on an average day, I was in makeup for 4 hours. But then, if you notice on the far right, well, the far right is David fucking Harbour. I don't know what the fuck you're putting him up there for. But and the scenes where I'm sure, again with the David Harbour.
That's David Harbour?
I knew these guys were shady.
No. That's David Harbour. Go back to where it's him, Chin.
That's him, right?
That's him there.
Yeah,
Yes.
You played him
But
with.
on the lower left is me shirtless. Those days were 6 hours.
Wow. Now, how much CGI is there? How much makeup?
No
'Cause you're-
CGI whatsoever. That's pure
what I'm
practical.
That's what I'm talking about.
Makeup.
That's what I'm talking
They
about.
just painted him.
No, I'm saying your body though. You're kind of a strong dude.
Well, it was 6 hours because 4 of those hours were me doing sit-ups.
Exactly.
So-
exactly.
And then
Got a lot of David Harbour up there. Bro.
Yeah.
yeah,
I typed in Ron
I don't
Perlman
trust these
Hellboy.
guys.
How do I
Ron.
get off this bus?
Yeah, I don't trust these guys.
You know, you played him with such humor, though, that character. There was something about that character that was just great.
Well, here's what happened.
It says teases Hellboy 3. Is that real? Or is that just gossip?
I'll tease anything you like.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
I'm like every cab driver in New York. I'm just trying to make a living. You know?
That's it. What were you saying about it?
If you look at when Guillermo first made Hellboy 1, the readership of the Hellboy comics was 6,000 readers worldwide. It was not a particular. It was not. Like,
yeah, it wasn't
like Marvel. It was not like DM.
It wasn't
was
a Batman. Yeah,
it was this little one-horse comic book, Dark Horse Comics, and 6,000 worldwide. So it was a bit of an uphill battle to do something that wasn't pre-branded.
Sure.
Like when you do Batman, it's so branded already.
Yeah.
So your marketing campaign is, but this was, and then in the comic books, Hellboy only spoke in like one-word sentences. He would go, or yup, or So when Guillermo had to make him three-dimensional as a movie character, he needed a model around which to create the humanity, And since Hellboy was a cigar-smoking, beer-drinking, underachiever who only wanted to stay in his bunker and watch Marx Brothers movies
and eat Baby
and
Ruth,
play with his cats and eat pizza, he said, I'm just going to model this off Perlman because he's such a degenerate.
I was going to ask you, did you get offered the role?
Well, he fought for me to have the role for 7 years.
Wow.
Guillermo Del Toro.
The studio, he took 5 years in one studio, and they finally said, sorry, we're never going to make this. As long as you keep saying Ron Perlman's name, we're never going to make this. He goes, so he let the contract with Universal lapse, and then spent another 2 years trying to sell me for the role. And everybody says, look, we got nothing against Perlman, but he can't be the star of a franchise. He's like a schlub, He's like this, he's like a character actor. On a good day, he's a character actor.
But what a genius he is, because now I can't picture you not being.
No.
Hellboy. What a genius! He
match
just saw
made in
that.
heaven.
Not only the vision of who he wanted to play the role, but the single-mindedness of letting of letting his movie not get made rather than making it the way he didn't want it to.
What was the role
like
he
that.
saw you in that convinced him you'd be good for Hellboy?
Well, I was in his very first movie. It was
Okay.
called Kronos. It was a Mexican film. It was like a tiny little budget, and we got along like we became bros on that film.
Great guy, huh?
He's a great guy.
Genius.
We
So
just
smart.
got along so fucking good. And then he took me along with everything he did. He put me in Blade 2.
Oh,
And
One of
then,
my faves.
and all the while, he was trying to get Hellboy made. And he kept telling the studios, this is how I see it. And I kept saying to Guillermo, I said, Hellboy is too good a project for you to not make. And I said, if you make it with somebody else, I won't be mad. I get it. I get how the business works.
Of course.
So, don't, speaking of hills to not die on,
Yeah.
I mean, just go make your movie. He goes, yes, my friend, I will do that. And he was lying to me, He was just like, no, I'm not going to make it unless I make it the way I want to
And he
make it.
called you one day and said, "I got you you're
So what he did was, when Blade 2 got made, Blade 2 opened at $42 million for the opening weekend. And the Monday after the opening weekend, everyone in town said to Guillermo, we want to be in the business with you. What movie do you want to make? And he said, I knew at that point I was either going to get it done or not. And he said, I want to do Hellboy. And my caveat is I want Ron Perlman. And they said, okay.
How did it do? as a
Some
movie?
sucker said, okay.
Yep.
It did okay.
Yeah.
It didn't lose money.
Yep.
It wasn't like Iron Man.
But it's a cult. It's a cult classic. I feel like everybody.
it's on
knows
TV
it.
all the time
Yeah.
too. They play it over.
It's like
and
one of those
over.
movies that just stood the test of time.
Yeah, no, it's we're all really proud to have done it, and you got a second film, and it was designed to be a trilogy, which we've never made the third one, but I'm still fighting for that.
What about Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah, that was after it. It went Hellboy, and then you rolled in Sons of Anarchy.
So
Is that right?
We did. So yeah, when Hellboy 2 was in the can and getting ready to come out, that's when they were talking about Sons of Anarchy, and I guess I got on a short list of guys to play, Clay Morrow, and met with Kurt Sutter, the creator of the show. We saw eye to eye on the concept. Went in and read for the network, and I got the part. And then right after that show sort of dropped, Hellboy 2 dropped. So it was a really good year, 2007.
Sons of Anarchy. I mean, one of the greatest shows of all time.
It was a great
show. I think what's interesting too, Ron, is I'm glad you came in here because sometimes, like, you're a badass on there. Like you're such a badass.
That was just acting.
Yeah,
Just acting.
no, but then sometimes we'll get guys in here where I'll be fans of them, then from TV or movies. Then you come in, and you're like, oh, you're nothing like those guys.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. Like,
You have eyeliner on, dude.
you seem to know that you did tap into something because that guy, as that show goes on, your character is so bad I can't believe it. Like just willing to do anything. And that is probably how those, the leaders of criminal organizations really are.
Then when they were creating that, was there any sort of conversation or connection to the actual biker gangs?
Oh my God! I mean, the best thing that Kurt Sutter did when he was before he even started writing the series was he went up to Northern Cali and hung out with the Hells Angels and immersed himself
Brilliant.
in their world, because he, every time we'd ever seen a depiction of biker clubs, they were always one-dimensional. They were always fat guys with beards, spitting and filling up women,
Yep.
and pissing in public, and and Kurt wanted to create a family drama, that happened to take place in this world, but he really wanted to create the hierarchy of, who's who in the club, what does it mean to be the president, what does it mean to be the sergeant at arms, all this stuff, and what does it mean with regard to your enemies, the other clubs around where there's all these turf wars. So he went up there and he spent at least a month or two just immersing himself in the world, and when he came back, that's when he started writing. So I think one of the things that people responded to was the authenticity, was the fact that this wasn't a one-dimensional kind of world. This was a bunch of very nuanced, kind of like really weirdly connected relationships, who the queen was, who the old lady was, like what it meant to raise a family, what it meant when you put on the cut, what your responsibilities were. Because this was a very, very well-crafted subculture of guys. Most of the bikers in the United States, especially in the 50s, were either fought in the World War II or the Korean
Vietnam.
War.
Yeah.
And they came back to an ungrateful nation, and they said, we were heroes, man. We fucking put our lives on the line for you, and you're treating us like we're, we're homeless, like we're, So fuck you. We're going to create our own little subculture, and we're going to have our own little, rules of the road, and we're going to live off the grid. And that's how the Hells Angels and a lot of these original clubs started.
Yeah, I love it.
They were all very patriotic guys who realized that they were coming back to not the most grateful of situations.
Yeah, I was doing a spot at the Laugh Factory, and I see I read all the books on biker gangs. I know my biker gangs, and I see this group of biker gangs in the back. I'm at the Laugh Factory.
Grab bikers, yeah.
A good amount of them. I see them in their patches. I won't say what gang it is, but I recognize the logo. I'm like, oh shit, man, bike gangs. So I get off stage. I'm waiting for my car outside. They come out. They follow me out. And I'm like, oh, when I was a UFC fighter, I was supposed to do this appearance in Colorado Springs. And my manager calls me and goes, you can't go. I'm like, what do you mean I can't go? It was a paid gig and I have a lot of money back then. I'm like, what do you mean I can't go? He goes, there's a biker gang meeting, a Hells Angel meeting, and one of their enforcers put a bounty on you. And he says he can beat you up. Like, what?
He can fight you.
Yeah, he wants to fight me. I'm like, I don't want to be part of that. He's like, it's the sheriff called us, said you can't go. It's not worth the risk. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So I thought maybe when I walk out on the street of Sunset, I'm like, oh, hopefully they're not trying to fight me. And they're all out there and they're fans. And my first question I said to him, I go, hey man, I'm not even trying to overstep here. I go, but I love Sons of Anarchy. I was like, how realistic was that? He's like, pretty spot on, man. One of the guys goes, pretty spot on, man.
Did you ever get approached by any of the Hells Angels, any of those guys?
Well, while the show was on, you know, we only worked like 4 months out of the year to do the show, so we had like 7 months to ourselves, and you know, wherever we went around the not just the country but the world, Canada, everywhere. When if the biker clubs heard that we were around, they would always invite us to sit down and they wanted to show us their appreciation.
That's pretty cool.
So we really got like the endorsement of the real deal guys, which.
Well, you played it like you see again.
Humanized
like
it.
You played it. That's you do this subtle thing, and I don't know how you approach that role, but I would say this: a lot of times I see people playing bad guys, and I just go like this. I look at the actor and I go, "You don't think like a bad guy, and you never have, and in fact, and you don't know any bad guys." So you're playing someone you saw in a film somewhere. That wasn't the case with you. You were playing what I would say probably, you know, it was almost like your character was a guy who was trying to get from point A to point B. If he had to take some shortcuts, he was going to take some shortcuts, but he was getting to point B.
And you rooted for him.
Is that how you looked at that? How do you play a bad guy? What are you thinking? First of all, are you even thinking he's a bad guy?
Well, you kind of know what position he occupies in terms of the overall story.
Right.
And he's, you know, you can't help but say, yeah, okay, I'm playing the villain.
Yeah.
You know? But you have to, that's where the judgment completely has to get thrown out. You can't, as an actor, ever judge the person that you're about to play. You simply have to understand him. And the thing that I like to do with characters that have a kind of a muddy relationship with fitting into society, that's how I would describe some of the villains I've played, you know, is I really want to know what made them like that. I want to know what happened to them that made their psychological wiring muddy and a little bit toward the dark side. Mm-hmm. And in the minute I embrace that, there's a sympathetic kind of a quality, regardless of how bad the things he does are. I think this is the thing that Scorsese does so well in his movies. You know, you watch Robert De Niro in Goodfellas or Joe Pesci in Goodfellas, you love them.
Yeah.
No.
But they're fucking evil. I mean, they just like, they're ruthless.
We had
guys.
Sammy the Bull Gravano on this podcast, and Sammy said when he was a kid, he was dyslexic, and the kids used to make fun of him, and then they called him dumb. And so he goes, I'm dumb. All I got is the street. And it started like that. And he goes, the one thing I do have, though, is I'll fight anybody, and I'll never give up. You got to kill me. And that's how the older guy said, this kid's like a bull. He's fighting 3 dudes at one time.
Right.
But he was so angry. Because he was obviously very intelligent, but felt dumb because he was told he was dumb because he was dyslexic.
Right.
And that
I'm human.
Yeah, and that sort of affirmation from these gangsters in the town, the guys who everybody looked up to. He went, I want to be this guy.
Yeah.
And he was here for an hour. And you're like, man, he's all right. And you're like, oh, he killed 17 people.
Yeah, but like you said, like
Sammy
you can't help. He's got a sense of humor. He's charming, you know, and you will see a human side of him.
Yeah.
But he's also a soldier.
Right.
And when he was working for the organization, if he had to kill you, you were going.
Well, that's what good acting does, right? It's like even with the Jeffrey Dahmer series on Netflix.
Yep.
They were saying how people were falling in love with Jeffrey Dahmer, this horrible serial killer.
Yeah.
But the actor was so damn good. He's from American Horror Story, my favorite.
Yeah.
He's so good. People are like, oh, I feel bad for him. Like
Anthony Hopkins.
this is insane.
My God, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Animal,
a perfect
yeah.
example
My
of like
God.
how, holy shit, this is my favorite character in the whole thing. And he eats people.
He's a hero. They made a cannibal out of a
but
hero.
even Narcos, like Pablo Escobar, the guy was so good. People are buying Pablo Escobar shirts and
My ex-wife
merchandise.
was in love with him.
Like, that's a terrorist.
My ex-wife was like, I was crying when he died. I was like, hey.
Like, you know how many people he killed?
He was the worst human being. I know, but he was so noble because he was willing to kill everybody for his wife. I'm like, God, Jesus Christ.
Like
you would have married the guy. And I would have been, they would have sent my head. They would have mailed my head to you.
Yeah, my girl, when we were watching it end, she's like, he's so, people just don't get him. He was like Robin Hood. I was like,
But you know,
Robin Hood?
there are certain givens that come with leadership. If you're like Pablo Escobar is the head, there's nobody above him. That means he's really intelligent.
Yes.
He's smarter than anybody else in the room.
Yep.
And probably more charming than anybody else in the room. Even though he's able to, and I used to have these long discussions with Kurt Sutter about Clay Morrow, the guy I played in Sons. And I said, how is he able to switch gears the way he does? How is he able to be such a great husband and so benevolent and loving to the group, and then just turn on a dime and do things that are completely diabolical? And he says, the one thing you learn how to do when you grow up in a rough way, and the premise was that Clay served in the Vietnam War. He had like tattoos all over him that identify the fact that he rained down terror on people as a soldier. Those guys learn how to compartmentalize. 1 minute they're this, and the next minute they're this, and it's not a question of which one you are. It's a question of which one you need to be at any given
bipolar
moment.
ape. Yep. You're a bipolar ape, a sinner, a saint, and everything in between.
Yeah.
That is what human beings are. Tony Soprano, the genius of that show was that he was a guy running two families, his own family and a crime family, and he could order a hit and then yell at his son for using the F word in the house at the same time.
Right.
but then go to therapy.
And then go to therapy. So you just go, I'm in with this guy.
And the great writers, this is why I'm mystified by, because I can't write.
No.
But the great writers are able to not march to any particular paradigm. They understand that life is funky
and
complex.
And the villain is complex and funky, and he's got a good side.
Yeah.
And anytime you see a great movie, like remember King of New York with Christopher Walken?
Yeah.
He makes a speech. He's the bad guy, but he goes, "I'm not your problem. I'm just the businessman."
Yeah.
All that time I was wasting in jail. Well, it just got worse.
Yeah.
That's why we need to get these great writers back to work.
That's a good.
To wrap it up, Ron. How do you guys move the ball forward, getting this strike done with?
Well,
so I can binge
we're not in
watch
control.
shows.
That's one of the tragedies of the whole thing is that, it takes two sides to come back to the table and make an agreement. But if you're negotiating with people in bad faith, who are in bad faith, who have an agenda to not come back to the table because it's in their best interests to hurt the other side or to streamline some of the mistakes they made in their business model so that they can say, if the strike goes on long enough, we no longer have to have this relationship with this particular guy. That's called force majeure. The strike has canceled out a lot of the contracts that these streamers had with artists.
Do they want to kill the union? Is that what they're trying to do?
They've always wanted to kill the union.
Yeah.
They cannot stand organized labor. No industry has embraced organized labor in the history of the United States. Organized labor has always been a struggle.
Yeah. Well, do you know how many? So here's a stat for you. How many workers in this country are part of a labor union? What do you think the percentage would be? It's pretty amazing.
Just not entertainment across the board?
Across the board.
Shoosh.
Well, it's about a third of what it was 25 years
It's
ago.
7%.
7%.
How about that? 7%.
And it used to be 21%.
That's right. And now it's
So
7%. Well, it's just
so they're winning.
They're winning. They're winning.
Oh yeah, well,
their agenda's working.
Again, it's like yes, because and
union has power.
So who do you know who really? And I make a good living, but who do you know who can actually save money? And I mean enough money to not worry for the next year.
Elon Musk.
I don't know anybody. I mean, I know we know some really rich people, but for the most part,
I don't.
you and I make a great living. But saving money in Los Angeles, the fuck
Yeah.
out of here. Now, Doesn't help that I have alimony and child support, and I pay that gladly and all that. But, you know, I always think to myself, I'm very lucky. I've done well in this business. And there are a lot of people that, I mean, the struggle is very real for it. It is what it is. It's like it doesn't seem to be getting better. It's
The only
harder and
good
harder.
thing the strike did was allow the Ron free time to come on this stupid show.
Well, I would have made time no matter what, bro.
I'll take it,
I would have
brother.
walked on fucking glass. to get here, bro.
For Fighter and the Kid.
I'll take it, man. If
Calabasas, are you kidding me, man?
you want to storm Netflix, I'll be your first call, man. I know those actors aren't exactly.
This is a big day for me.
Where do you live? Do you live in LA or do you live in
Pasadena.
Oh, you do. All right. Well, that's a drive, my brother.
Yeah, that's
a good drive.
I have really, really good air conditioning in my car and great music. So there's
Do you
no
listen?
drive.
Is that what you do in the car? Do you listen to music?
I listen to music.
Yeah.
What kind of music?
It's this playlist that I've been developing for the last 60 years.
Are you a musician?
My father and my brother were both professional drummers. Wow. But I never had the discipline to practice like you need to practice to become a great musician. So I had to choose a creative outlet that required no discipline and no talent. So that's why I became an actor.
Where did you grow up in New York?
Washington Heights.
I know Washington Heights. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool area, actually.
Yeah.
It still is.
Yeah, it's actually nicer now than
It is.
than it was when I was growing up there, because it's kind of like you know, there's so few areas in New York City where a young family can start out. So Washington Heights has this kind of, not gentrification, but a lot of, you know, young families can still afford to get like a 3-bedroom apartment up there.
That's right.
Whereas the rest of the city is like verboten.
When you were a kid, how often would you go to Manhattan? Not
Very,
often.
very rarely.
That's right. It's expensive. It was
It was like it was like going to a different city.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
We stayed.
If you were in the Bronx, you stayed in the Bronx. If you
Stayed
were
in the Bronx.
Yeah, that was what you did. If
I
you were
had
in
a
Brooklyn, you
beach
stayed in
club
Brooklyn.
in the Bronx
Did you?
underneath an L, underneath an elevated IRT subway line was Fieldston Bath and Tennis Club.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was a small patch of grass, swimming pool, some cabanas, and a bunch of fucking Jews playing pinochle. And mahjong. The women were playing mahjong.
Mahjong.
Time.
The guys were
Sounds like
playing,
a good
the
time,
guys were
right?
playing
It's a good time.
pinochle. They had tennis courts, they had basketball courts, they had a swimming pool, they had, you know, they had dances and stuff. And this was my country club.
You know, you get older and you start to just really enjoy being a spectator and just shooting the shit, just sitting back
Oh my
and
God,
just
yeah.
talking.
Well, that's
right?
all I have the energy for anymore.
It's-
They said to me, "How's the picket line going?" I said, "I don't know. I can't fucking walk." I'm 73 years
I'm not
old.
making a sign.
bet.
I'm leaving that to the punks who
youngsters.
like walking. I
Of
don't.
course. Of course.
I'll come on podcasts and
Pee.
and
Go pee.
Yeah.
Yeah, go take a
Right.
piss. You love this. He's so wrapped up with this, and I love seeing you like this. We'll have athletes, we'll have everybody. You come on, and he's like this. You're quiet, and you're just
I
going
listen.
like this.
I take it in.
It's so great.
The athletes, there's no mystery. There's no
Even
mystery
other
there.
actors, but you got a real, you got a real
most actors
thespian.
they come in here like, oh,
You got a real actor. You got a real New Yorker. You got a
legend.
you got
I
a
don't know
guy
if
from.
I'd go that far.
Well, you're grounded. You're grounded in a tradition. That's
Well, I'm grounded, that's for sure.
you want to wrap it, B?
go take a pee and then we'll wrap
Sure?
it properly.
Okay.
Yeah. Look at him holding his pee. It's a big boy right there.
Yeah, he pees more than I do.
Yeah, he's
that's
got-
a
he's got
lot.
a small
he
bladder.
peed when I first got here, and now he's peeing again.
Big
I don't
body.
even have to pee that much.
Big body, small bladder.
Yeah,
Small
that's
cock.
what happens.
Small dick too, probably. I don't like to say it, but he's got small hands. I'm not going to get into it. Poor guy.
Well, I got big feet, and you know what that means, right?
You know what that means? Big understanding. That's what.
Big
it is.
socks.
Big socks. Very big
All
socks.
that means. I can say that firsthand. I can tell you that.
That's right. That's
These
right.
guys who are at the board over here.
These guys are.
Can they
yeah,
be trusted?
I've never seen them before. This is the first time.
First time.
No, these are our. The Chin has been with us from
This
the
is
beginning.
this is the salt of the earth over here.
Oh,
Are you
yeah.
kidding me? This is the shit.
He's a little
this is the
sweetheart.
backbone.
George was a fan of the show, and he lost how much weight?
I lost altogether 260 pounds.
Holy shit!
I was
Listening-
451 pounds, and my lowest was 190.
Listening to the podcast.
Yep.
And this kid, we gave him an intern, Brendan did, and now he's just been indispensable. Indispensable.
Damn,
I get to live the dream, make funny little clips.
that's a lot of weight to lose, bro.
Oh yeah, it took like 2 years, but just diet, exercise 6 days a week. I had an MMA fight when I came to
He actually fought, yeah.
California.
Really?
I didn't win, but I had a fight. Got choked out.
You won though, bro. You won the big war.
You're
Bro.
damn right.
I won life.
Yeah, you won
Honestly
the
blessed.
big one. You won the big award.
And if it means anything, when I come home from work, I play the Call of Duty zombies that you voice.
That a boy.
I always.
It means a lot.
It
means a lot. Anytime anybody, anytime anybody tells me that they, they've seen something of mine, or they watched something of mine, or they, I'm not blowing smoke or being falsely humble or anything like that. I just think of myself as a dude. Mm-hmm. I don't think of myself as
Ron Perlman.
as
As a celebrity, yeah.
And when I hear I spent a little time watching this thing, and I go, oh wow, tell me more.
You're keeping there.
I can't.
I'm the same way. I get I'll be in the airport. I get recognized, and I don't let them go. I'm that guy who gets. I'm just like, thank you very much, and I'll answer questions. I'll sit there and talk. I've never been cool. I've never gotten over that.
Do a press conference.
Oh, dude, I do. The first time first show I ever did was a show called Mad TV. I was part of the original cast, and I came back to New York after my first season, and I got recognized for the first time. In fact, my buddy. We're in Central Park. My buddy gets interrupted because the guy comes over to take a picture with me. It was 1997. I look at my boys. I go, guys, sorry, it's different now. I got them there. It was the fucking
Will
best.
Sasso, was he on that?
Will was on the season after me.
Okay.
He's a dear friend, and he's done this show a ton of times.
Oh, I bet he has.
He's the funniest.
His podcast, the Dudes.
He's a genius.
He is a genius.
Sasso?
Will Sasso is a genius. He's a genius.
Funniest person we know.
Oh my God.
He's a genius.
Biggest cast we know as well.
I've never seen anybody that funny. He can do anything, anytime.
His Hulk Hogan.
Well, not only is he funny, but he seems to have every fact at his disposal.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
He's so well read and he's so well informed.
Yeah, I love Will.
How do you know him? You worked with him?
He used to work out at Gold's Gym with me, and not with me, but I used to see him in
And he
Gold's
used to
Gym.
work
Did he
out with
just
that
do
trainer,
calf
remember
raises?
That Muay Thai trainer,
Yeah.
Harold?
Yeah, Harold. Harold
Yeah.
taught me to box.
Isn't he the
I
greatest?
took Harold's tooth out.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
He'd wear
He was-
two
he
different
was
color
teach-
shoes.
He was teaching. Yeah, exactly.
Harold, that's my face next to his calf. Look at the size of his fucking calf.
Massive calves.
That's a bull heart. We
And
call that bull
was this
heart.
at Gold's Gym in Venice?
No, in Hollywood on
gotcha.
Cole, Cahuenga.
Yeah, I used to work out there.
Yeah, I miss
Yeah.
Will.
It was a gay bar with
right up
weights
until
in it.
the pandemic. I worked out
Yep.
there.
And you used to work, and so you do a little boxing?
So I decided to, Harold and I became tight just from bullshitting on the floor whenever.
This
we
was a
run
Muay
into each
Thai.
other.
He was a world champion Muay Thai guy, and he was.
And what was his name?
Sasso's-
Jewish guy.
Jewish guy, Harold Diamond.
Harold.
He was in the Stallone movies. He was Sasso's trainer, but he was a legit fighter. He actually fought in what's the center in the Bangkok?
In Thailand?
Yeah, the big stadium. For,
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Muay
about.
Thai.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so go on. So
No. I mean, so I decided. Yeah, I wanted to, box a couple of times a week, and so I hired Harold to be my boxing trainer up in Gold's upstairs on the second floor, and there he is, and
what a
we were
character.
going along really good, and then one day he was teaching me this combination, and he said, "Okay, let's see it." Before he got a chance to put his hand up. And I took his fucking tooth out. That was the last lesson I had with him.
We're all good.
But I'm still getting bills. I'm still getting
Yeah,
doctor
you're still
bills.
getting insurance
Oh,
with?
no.
And do you still train?
He didn't have.
Do you still train or no?
He didn't have dental, obviously.
Yeah.
No, he actually moved to Bangkok.
He was
lives in
thick
Bangkok.
as
Oh,
shit,
damn.
like all muscle. And we were at a party at Sasso's house, and he grabbed me around the waist and did this thing where I was like, Jesus, he'd and he'd lift his shirt up and he just had dinner rolls of just muscle, just
Yeah.
get. And he had so many opinions about nutrition,
Yeah,
and
he was
all that
he was a very colorful dude.
colorful.
Sounds like
Still
you're
is.
lucky Ron doesn't take your tooth out, bud.
Listen, my hands are always up. My hands are
If
always
we
up.
have to.
I'm
my
not-
head never
I'm
stops
not the
moving.
man I used to be.
Yeah,
Well-
training.
Ron, it's a big day for me, man.
Thank you.
I'm glad you came in, brother.
I am too, man. I was like, because I said to Rob, because he set this up, the guy who did.
Yeah.
And I said, so what do I need to know? I mean, he said, well, it's kind of sports oriented. I said, yeah, but I don't follow any sports except golf. I said, they're probably not going to fucking want to talk about golf.
I like golf.
He said, well, I don't know what to tell you then. Maybe you don't want to do the show after all. I said, no, you know what? We'll make it work.
We don't talk about sports.
Yeah, it's weird to call it a sports show.
What a pleasure.
Yeah, we're not a sports show.
You make the
Pleasure
world
has
a better
been mine.
place.
It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, you're the best, man. And I hope the strike stuff gets figured out. I really do.
Well, in the meantime, you are you're important, and this is something that people have to realize. It's anybody who's fighting the good fight and in the business of original self-expression, and who holds the bar as high as you do. Sometimes you don't feel like you're making a difference, but you do make a difference, man. And that's I know you feel like just a dude, as you were talking about, but you're not. You're not, and you're a sage, in your own way, and that's kind of what comes with being older.
If it comes down to it, you guys need some muscle. You got my number.
There you
Thank
go.
you, bro.
Whatever you need, bro.
Back at you.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, hell yeah.
If you got somebody who's good in a wheelchair, man.
And I'll be like this. Me.
I know we're wrapping this up.
Yeah.
But
We don't have
but
to.
I
Take your
want to.
time.
I want to. We were getting on to something a second ago, and what I realized about the with the onset of the strike, and with the fact that I started to realize, like, we're living in an upside down, twisted world where what people are being shoved down their throats is just strictly false. The 1% is 1%. And they got us bullshitted into the fact that they control everything. And it's just, if they were making the world a better place, God bless.
Agree.
I'll sign me up, right? But if they're devaluing the most beautiful things about living in this life, in order for them to gaslight us into thinking that we can't live without them, then we got a problem. And I started thinking about what did I start thinking about? I started
Solution.
thinking about how the narrative absolutely has to be changed, and how the people who made, who were real MAGA, Make America Great Again, you know what that was? That was the middle class. And you know why the middle class happened? Is because of labor unions. Like the minute labor got the idea in the 30s against threats of fucking being killed and violence,
of course,
and everything like that they needed to organize in order to get a civilized working day and a kind of a salary structure where they could raise kids and retire with dignity. That's the slogan of the middle class.
Yep.
And,
Retire with dignity.
that's what made America great,
Well, the idea that you had a future, that if you played by the rules, and that if you worked hard, you could create a better life for your kids and a future where you could take a breath, where you could catch your fucking breath, man.
So when you mention the fact that there's only 7% of all the workers in the United States that are members of a labor union,
That's the problem.
and then you look at, fucking Amazon that won't let you unionize, and Starbucks that won't let you unionize, and then you look at the fact that like I came up in the 60s, I had fucking the Beatles, Martin Luther King, John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Bob Dylan.
Malcolm X.
We were fucking going to change the world. Everybody that was from 17 to 29 was engaged, bro. And now I'm looking at a bunch of fucking 17 to 29-year-olds that have all the energy in the world, all the idealism in the world, and absolutely nothing to believe in.
Because
No direction.
But the enemy
They're
feels,
looking at their fucking phone.
But the
direction,
enemy
yeah.
feels like a machine, though. The enemy feels like it's invisible. We don't know. People don't know where to strike. They don't. So you talk about
let's give them a
unions.
direction.
Well,
That's
the
what they
thing.
need is direction. You can't
because
bend the knee.
That's what you have to do, because the problem is that right now, it's what I said, most kids don't even know where or how they fit into a future that offers the blockchain, nanotechnology, robots, AI, a future that is going to replace human expression and the human machine with a better, quote unquote, better machine. So even with unions and stuff, what they'll tell you is, hey, technology is going to take your job anyway. And this is what, so whether that's true or not, I don't want to live in a world of machines. I want to live in a world of people who are still, you know, one of the things you love about cars is like Ferraris and those cars is
TRXs, dude.
The
Detail.
this thing, the craftsmanship that goes into that
That's why I
engine,
hate Tesla.
the artistry that goes into the body.
Yes.
It's more than just convenience. It's
No.
more than just abundance.
It's not convenient.
There is something you gain from cooking your own meal, picking up that tomato and finding the right one that's been ripened on a vine. There's something about that process that takes a long time to make an amazing meal and serving that to your family and sitting around and taking the time to eat. If you think you can replace that with a machine, then good luck with that. Good luck with that.
But there is a segment of our society that does.
Yes.
And that segment of society is rewarded with inordinate amounts of wealth and inordinate amounts of power. And I'm telling you that sliver of society that is operating on that level of cynicism, on the fact that there's nothing worth, no part of humanity that's worth dying for other than greed and wealth, they are very much in the minority.
Yes,
and
they're
so
the minority.
what I have,
Yep.
you know, just to wrap all this up, because we've been talking a little bit about the strike and about various and other things, is I'm going to spend the rest of my life figuring out a way to engage the guys from 17 to 29 into having something to fucking fight for. And that thing is going to be dignity. That thing is going to be humanity. That thing is going to be individual respect. That thing is going to be a return to the thing like, I'm not powerless. In fact, I'm just the opposite. I can fucking tell these guys how shit's going to go. That's a movement.
Sign me up. And we will always
Yeah,
be
man.
here for you to come on here.
That's a movement, bro. And I think that, yeah, it's one thing to be a part of the entertainment industry, and we're going on strike now, but we are just a symptom of a very bigger malady.
Yep.
And that is the devaluation of things that are precious.
Yep.
And the devaluation of the individual and his ability to fucking reach the moon. And to know the difference between a technology that can cure cancer and cure diabetes or replace humanity.
Yeah, and mankind.
That's a great distinction.
Yeah.
Just because that technology is out there doesn't mean you have to use it for the most diabolical
Correct.
means unless all you care about is greed.
Yeah.
And I particularly feel like we need to just do everything we can to change the narrative to say, sorry, motherfuckers, you don't win. You don't win.
I'm not a
Because
number.
all you do is you try to make me feel small. And you know what? That's bullshit. That's gaslighting, bro.
Yep.
So you don't win. And you know,
Gotta get tough.
If it means creating a movement where labor, where the little guy, you know, becomes the straw that stirs the drink again,
Sign me up.
Let's go.
That's a good thing worth fighting for.
That's
end on
a
that.
good
End on
good
that.
monologue to end on.
Yep.
You see what I mean?
I will
That's
drive
ending
my
in
truck
style.
through Netflix right now.
No, you take it easy. That's a big truck. Hey, Ron Perlman said.
I'm with Ron.
I never mentioned the N-word.
Never mention the N-word.
Speaking of being creative, Spokane, I'm there this Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Spokane Comedy Club, one of my faves. I'll probably be staying Coeur d'Alene, but either way, Spokane, Washington, September 21st to 23rd.
I'll be there.
Skankfest. We'll
Yes.
see you there. Hey, Genesee Theater. I'll see you. I'll see you at the Genesee Theater September. Why does it say? Oh, Funny Bone's already done. Where's Genesee?
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Sunday.
Waukegan, Illinois, Sunday. I'll see you at the Genesee Theater. Let's go. Still some tickets. September 24th, 7 p.m. Can't wait. Skankfest after that. Comedy Zone, Greensboro, North Carolina, October 6 and 7. Come get some. BryanCallen.com. Ron Perlman.
Ron, we love you.
You're
What
awesome.
a pleasure, bro.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
for having
man.
me.
Wow.
Appreciate you, brother.
What a breath of fresh air.
One of my faves. We're out.